Hello, I'm David, and I'm again trying self therapy. I guess what I wanted to talk about today, and that I've been thinking about for the past week, is sort of in general, what is the point of life? Is it pointless and meaningless? And what what do I have to contribute to the world, those around me? Does anyone care? And does any of it matter? And in thinking about that idea and concept, I guess, I keep coming back to uh, Shakespeare Sonit number 2, which I'll just read, I guess, to sort of set the baseline for my thinking. So, Shakespeare Sonnet number 2. When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow, and dig deep trenches in thy beauty's field, thy youth's proud livery, so gazed on now, will be a tattered weed of small worth held. When being asked where all thy beauty lies, where all the treasure of thy lusty days, to say within thine own deep sunken eyes were an all-eating shame and thriftless praise. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use, if thou couldst answer this fair child of mine? Shall sum my count and make my old excuse, proving his beauty by succession line. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelest it cold. So, at least to me, Shakespeare Sonnet 2 kind of summed up this idea that what is the point of your life if it's all kind of based on these superficial things like treasure and beauty when you're just going to get old anyway and it's not going to be worth anything anymore. It'll all just be kind of washed away by the river of time eventually. And how much more fulfilling or full could your life be if you had children to be a good parent to teach them things, help them be successful in life, and sort of launch them out into the world to have a better footing and hopefully do better than you did in life and carry on life forward into the future with some feeling or degree of hope and the potential for living on and doing better and carrying humanity forward. So, at least that's what I understand the actual written word of Shakespeare Sonnet 2 to be, in my interpretation of it, let's say. And hopefully that is Shakespeare Sonnet 2. That's always what I've known it as and read it in a book that said the sonnets of Shakespeare. So, anyway, kind of setting that aside, my thoughts this week have just kind of been on that concept in general. What is the point of life? And at least for me, 30 some years later, I personally haven't found a more compelling argument than Shakespeare Sonnet 2. What should I do with my life? Like the poem of Ozymandias, or however you pronounce it, where this traveler comes along, a giant statue of a king that has collapsed in the desert or whatever. And it's got this plaque kind of describing how he controls all of the lands and all the power he has, but the statue has fallen over and it's kind of destroyed over time and fallen into disrepair and almost unrecognizable. So what do you have to show for all of your power and accomplishments when time is just going to ravage you and destroy you in the end anyway? What is really the ultimate point of life? Should we go forth and multiply and maybe at some point colonize the stars? Or is there any point to life at all? I don't really know, as I imagine most of us don't, but Shakespeare Sonit 2 has kind of at least been my guiding light for all of my adulthood, really. And unfortunately, I don't have near as much time as I ever really wanted with my own children. I actually looked forward to, being a parent and having children and living out Shakespeare Sonit 2. But life, unfortunately, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I don't know, really, if I appreciated that phrase very much until I got older. Because now my life feels a lot like experiencing hell, even though I've had all of these, I think, good intentions. Be a good parent, have children, multiply, leave some sort of meaningful legacy, and help your children do better than you did, and be good to them and help them. Let them have a fun, enjoyable life. And unfortunately, sometimes no matter what you do or how good your intentions are, things just seem to go sideways. And it's kind of hard to make sense of that. How you can set forth in life and have these good intentions and then it all just kind of falls apart anyway. And the other thing I've been thinking about is, am I just a bad person and I'm not good enough? I don't do things good enough that should be appreciated. So I just don't deserve any appreciation. Maybe I'm just fundamentally somehow a bad person. I always come back to this kind of concept of just communicating in general. Words and speaking are an imperfect way to convey alone just ideas. And even worse, trying to convey feelings in a spoken or written form just really leaves a lot to be desired, And how do you convey intention, your intent to be good and do good and want to help and want to make things better? How do you convey those things in words? And then even if you do your best to try and do that, the other end of the equation is always your audience having to interpret what you're saying and what you're doing. Even if you set out with the intent of doing everything right, you can make a mistake. And even if you don't make mistakes, somebody else will interpret it, they could, completely the opposite of what you intended. And that's something I've struggled with throughout my life is, whether in work or personal life, like playing telephone. It's like playing telephone. If you sit in a circle with a number of people, say like 12 people, and you say a message, a specific message to somebody, and then they have to go around the circle. By the time the message gets back to you, it's so distorted, it doesn't even resemble the original message you sent out. And I guess that's had, in some way, been a large part of my struggle throughout life is I want to do these things, I want to convey these ideas, and sometimes, no matter how hard I try or how good my intentions are, the message gets so distorted that by the end of the day, it's just like, completely mirror opposite image of what I tried to put out into the world and to accomplish. It's like, trying to start a family, have children, and be a good parent has turned into I am completely alone with no one that appreciates any of my efforts, speaking to myself in a dark room with no idea or direction in life anymore. Really to the point where, I struggle with the whole concept of I do not feel appreciated. But when I get in arguments essentially with myself of, am I appreciated? And I don't understand the appreciation that I'm receiving? Or am I too petty in expecting to receive any appreciation whatsoever? And I get hung up on this idea because I think back, really, to sort of earlier in my career and earlier in starting a family. I would lay in bed at night and I would think to myself, I have to be careful. I have to make sure I work hard, because if I don't do a good enough job, if I lose my job, there's now all of these people that depend on me to provide, to, essentially, when you whittle it down, exchange my time and labor for some monetary reward. And then, hopefully, we have enough money to maintain a house, provide food, and all the accoutrements that come along with, a life and family and children. School supplies, clothes, learning materials, and on and on. So it would kind of, and this would go on night after night, unbeknownst to everyone else, I'm sure, because it only ever really, did it really happen? It only really happened within my own head. Is I would lay in bed, stare at the ceiling after everyone was asleep and think, I have to work hard, I have to do a good job, I have to get promotions, I have to make money, I have to pay for stuff. All of these people depend on me. I liken it to, or I think of it as, there weren't people around me going, oh, you're doing a great job, thank you. Thank you for providing, we really appreciate it. Rah, rah, keep doing good work. I don't ever feel like I really got any of that. And it's kind of, like a weight on your shoulders to think, these people depend on you. You have to get up and do these things, and you have to slay these so-called dragons and bring home the prize and provide stuff. And it feels like a weight on your entire being of, slogging through hell. At least that's how I felt. And I simultaneously felt like everybody just kind of expected this to be the case. I would go forth and be successful and pay for stuff. And, I never really felt appreciation. Nobody popped up and said, "Yeah, good job. We really appreciate it." I mean, not even like that. So, kind of feeling and struggling like I'm carrying a weight, I guess coping mechanism for all of it became, I would talk to myself in my head, and I would tell myself, "You're doing a good job. You have to keep doing a good job. Everybody depends on you." And I felt I was being my own cheerleader and motivating myself to keep working and doing stuff. And I told myself, really, hey, it matters. You're the guy doing the work and making money and providing stuff. This matters. This matters to people. The people you care about most, this matters to. And even if they don't show appreciation, it's directly benefiting them, and they are subsisting and surviving and hopefully thriving because of your efforts. And I mean, for years, it was enough. But you lose the vast majority of your time with your children, and it doesn't really feel like enough. And to me, in work or personal life, even now, you suffer those things, and it's like scars. It's like internal scars. When stuff happens and people don't appreciate you, or you go out into the world and you have conflict, or you're not appreciated at work, or credit for something is taken where you at least think it might not be warranted as much on some other person's behalf as maybe it is on yours. Those things feel like scars internally. And after a while, you accumulate enough scars where you become not only broken, but less and less inclined to put yourself in situations where you can receive additional scars, because you never really get the uplift or the updraft to come along and re-encourage you, reinvigorate you, and replenish and refresh, so you can go forth and take a few more scars. And maybe they're all just imagined, but it feels like scars. And after a while, you collect enough scars, you get kind of tired of participating in activities that inflict upon you internal scars. But then I just kind of end up asking myself, do I take these things too seriously? And is it enough to do a good thing and know that it is a good thing and know you have had a positive impact, even if no one acknowledges or outwardly appreciates in some way what you have done a good thing? And I don't even know at this point why I let this stuff bother me. Sometimes I think maybe it's because I used to feel like I mattered and like I existed and people recognized and celebrated me and, at least some kind of capacity or concept. When you're a kid, everybody kind of likes kids, or you would hope, right? You would hope at least your own parents and family, grandparents and siblings and whatever appreciate you when you're young. I guess that's been kind of a difficult thing to accept. Is when I was growing up, I'd have birthday parties and we'd have celebrations. And we'd have big family gatherings for holidays and stuff. And I'd have birthday cakes and presents, and I felt as if I existed and participated in the family and was recognized and celebrated. But, and maybe it's a separate case for everybody else. I don't particularly know. There must be some people that, they have normal families where everybody appreciates each other or whatever. But as I came into adulthood and even starting a family, everybody else's stuff seemed to always matter. Everybody else's problems or, birthdays. Birthdays kind of, I don't know, I wonder if it's just petty. Is it pettiness? Does it matter? Should I care? But especially the last 5 or 6 years, but if I'm really actually being honest, probably since my early 20s onward, birthdays don't particularly matter. I don't even, at this stage in my life, I have not received a birthday cake in years. And no birthday cards. My birthday isn't, celebrated. I'm not celebrated. And I don't feel appreciated. And it's not my birthday. It's not my birthday now. My birthday isn't anywhere near or around August, but I don't know. For some reason this past week, I've just been, and especially today, bothered by the reality that my existence does not particularly matter. And I don't know. I kind of get stuck in the struggle of, should I even bother to think about this? Does it really matter at all? Is it petty of myself to sit here and go, gee, I haven't gotten birthday cakes or birthday cards? But yeah, something I have thought about anyway, and especially today, is, and then even if I put forth effort, it seems like, or it feels like, to help others around me directly through it. It doesn't seem to matter. It can be time itself, investing time in helping people solve problems or accomplish a goal, or just directly by, monetary means of acquiring something or doing something, to the point where, I selfishly don't want to help anyone with anything at this point, because you help somebody with something and it feels like you don't get real appreciation, whatever the hell that is. You solve a problem, and then someone else now wants you to solve another problem. Like, people have this endless array of problems in their lives. They can always use more help or more things or more time and money. They don't really, per se, express real gratitude or appreciation for it. And, I wish my experience, frankly, was not like this, because I don't mind helping people. what I mind is feeling like all people want from you is help. And when they don't participate in any kind of reciprocity or, payback of doing something in kind in return for you. And then, I used to go to therapy for these kind of things and look for some kind of help or coping mechanism or strategy. And really, sadly, I guess, the best coping mechanism, or usually the best answer I ever got from therapy, was don't ruminate on it, which, I guess to some degree I can agree. You shouldn't pound your head against negative thoughts so much that all you're doing is feeling bad or stressing or fighting with a problem you can't solve or there isn't a solution to. But it's kind of a strange dichotomy, right? Isn't it? Don't solve a problem by, or solve your feelings about a problem by not thinking about said problem, which I find particularly difficult because generally in life, when problem solving, my approach is to think about it entirely from every angle possible until you solve the problem. Maybe at times taking a break from thinking about a particular problem, kind of letting your thoughts relax and marinate or whatever, and then coming back to it and having an epiphany and being able to solve a problem you were previously struggling with. But unfortunately, what I've found in my 40s as I've gotten older is sometimes in life there are problems that exist because people don't want them to be solved. So how do you solve those problems? You don't, because they exist because someone has willed them into existence. Which I guess, rather than just the point of life seems pointless, I don't feel appreciated, and the kind of dichotomy between thinking about problems to solve them and, not thinking about things too much to the point where you're ruminating on them with no positive outcome or progress. The other kind of thought I had and come back to is, I try and imagine my problems sometimes as if they are physical things. Like physically, my problems are objects. And I can place those objects into luggage, suitcases or backpacks or whatever. And once I've placed all of this luggage, these items into luggage that I don't want anymore, I can just physically set them down and leave them there. Which, as far as coping mechanisms go, I suppose that has occasionally been useful, but sometimes I will circle back to the luggage that I have left on the floor or whatever and pick it back up, and like a madman with a whiteboard and string and sticky notes, I'll pull all my luggage apart and go back through all the problems I could never find a solution to. And that's, I guess, kind of what I've been doing this week, struggling with I don't feel appreciated. I feel like I try and do good things to help people, and sometimes no matter what I do or how well I do it, nobody particularly appreciates any of that. And unfortunately for me, right, that has been a recurring theme for the past 20 years or so. So, I don't know. Shakespeare Sonit 2. I don't know. I wish I had a positive message. I don't think I have a positive message, unfortunately, this week. Other than I am trying to visualize stuff in luggage, and I am trying to set it down, at least for some amount of time, so I can get through today and tomorrow and the next day, and perhaps sometime in the future I will come back and rummage through my luggage and see if I can find any sort of meaningful solution to any of it. So, those are my thoughts for this week. I don't know what else to say. I hope you have a good evening, and hopefully you have something to look forward to in the coming week. Good night.